Galnet News, keeping your galaxy in focus. 25th of August, 3301. In today's top stories, gun battle ends Darius family murder investigation. Democracy threatened in the old worlds. Claims of federal involvement in the Emperor's assassination. An Operation Uranus successful. Federal Times reporter named as murder suspect. And federal and Imperial diplomats discuss the Pegasi sector. Emperor Hengist Duval's death leaves many more dead in its wake. The hunt for the killers of the Darius family came to a traumatic conclusion today in a firefight with local security forces on Eotensis. The Darius family was brutally murdered 4 days ago in what is believed to be revenge for Brendan Paul Darius' assassination of Emperor Hengist Duval. All of the suspects, who are understood to have been local vigilantes seeking revenge for the Emperor's murder, were killed in the operation. In a statement, Inspector Reeve, who led the investigation, said,
"Considering the savagery with which the suspects butchered the Darius family, we couldn't take any chances while attempting to arrest them. They were heavily armed and opened fire as our officers entered the building."
He refused to answer questions about why the family wasn't in protective custody, or how the protection team were able to be subdued so easily. One local witness of the operation claimed that no attempt was made to arrest the suspects, an accusation Inspector Reeve vigorously denied. The sanctity of democracy is now threatened in the old worlds. Allegations have surfaced from sources close to the office of Prime Minister Edmund Mann that unnamed elements within the Pilots Federation are deliberately undermining democratic factions in the old worlds. These groups are allegedly scheming to push corporate governments into power to strengthen trade agreements with Alioth. The Lave system appears to be the latest victim of these efforts. With support from independent pilots, the Incorporated Lave Fortune organization has become the most influential faction in the system. If they are successful, Lave will become the third system in the cluster, after least in Riort, to have its democratic government overthrown by a corporation. The rise of the Alliance as a galactic power has brought prosperity to the old worlds, but commentators fear that its basic principles are being undercut by Edmund Mann in order to protect trade interests. The Prime Minister's office has yet to respond to these allegations. And the Emperor's assassination continues to make headlines. With the long history of conflict between the superpowers, it is not unexpected that some of the more paranoid members of the Imperial population have directed their suspicions concerning the Emperor's assassination at the Federation. While no one in authority within the Empire takes these claims seriously, some of his citizens and lower members of Imperial society wonder that if the claims aren't true, then why don't those in charge simply say so? Some believe that these unanswered, if unreasonable questions, lay at the heart of some of the trouble reported in the queue of mourners on Capitol. To many of us, the thought that the Federation would risk all-out war by killing the leader of the only other superpower capable of battling them on equal terms is far out there. But it's not the craziest theory by a long mark. Conspiracy theorist Ricardo Bentonio claims that the Emperor is not dead. Instead, it is just his human host that has been transformed, and the being we know as Emperor Hengist Duval has returned to his homeworld in the Andromeda Galaxy. On the independent news front, this week Archon Delane hit back at the renewed Imperial offensive. Using a multi-pronged attack, the Kumo crew struck hard at systems under the influence of Senator Petraeus. Dubbed Operation Uranus, the campaign successfully pushed the system of Kontiku into turmoil. The number of Kumo crew raids within Imperial space increased during the week, with multiple Imperial commanders reporting run-ins with the cartel. Although a combined task force of Imperial powers laid siege to the Pegasi sector, pilots loyal to Senator Petraeus failed to prevent the pirate counterattack. This may jeopardize the fragile alliance between the powers and strengthen internal opposition to the Pegasi pirate war. Time will tell if the operation has shifted the balance of power, but Archon Delane certainly refuses to go gently into the night. Fear strikes federal security services as Federal Times reporter named murder suspect. Following news of the brutal murder of Agent Susan Monroe, the Federal Security Services upgraded Elaine Boyd's person of interest status to suspect and called for any information regarding the reporter's movements. in a statement made by Federal Security Services stating,
"This was a particularly savage murder of a person who laid their life on the line. We believe that Elaine Boyd was using our lover to access confidential information. While we haven't yet ascertained the exact nature of the information she was trying to access or why she murdered the agent, it is also unknown whether Agent Moreau was a willing participant in the information retrieval, although we believe that her murder indicates that she was not. We urge anybody who sees Elaine Boyd to report her location immediately. At this time, she is considered dangerous and should not be approached."
In a statement, the chief editor of the Federal Times said, quote, "Having worked with Ms. Boyd for 7 years, I find it hard to imagine that she could commit the crime she is accused of. We are, of course, helping the security services with their inquiries, but I can confirm we've had no contact with Ms. Boyd for several days." And finally, Federal and Imperial diplomats opened talks about the Pegasi sector. Historically, areas of mutual interest have resulted in cooperation between the Empire and the Federation. Now it seems that the humanitarian crisis in the Pegasi sector represents one such mutual interest. In a meeting between Federation and Imperial commanders, Commander Nihilus of the Merchant Marines offered these words.
"We must re-establish liberty in those zones that have become lawless. The Kumo crew and its vagabond leader will no longer be tolerated in our space. I call upon all Federation pilots. How can you tolerate this encroachment upon our worlds?"
And Commander Corrigendum of Lavini's Legion added,
"We welcome all those who want to oppose the tyranny of Archon Delane and ask that Federation and Imperial commanders operating in the Pegasi sector give one another a wide berth as they work toward the common goal of bringing Delane to justice."
And that's the Galnet news for today. This has been Chip Washington. Tune in next time to keep your galaxy in focus.